Good afternoon. I'm recording this for April the 7th. Actually doing it on Sunday afternoon, April the 4th, after we've had a wonderful Lord's Day morning and a beautiful afternoon to enjoy resting and fellowshipping with others. And now we're back for the evening service. So I wanted to get this reading in before the week gets any later. Building on the Rock, of course, is our book, and today's title is Captain Ryder's Rescue. Captain Ryder's Rescue. This is a bit of a long one, so hang on. Captain Ryder owned a large ship which he sailed to make his money. He would carry loads of merchandise from South America to Australia. From there, he would take a new load and sell for China. He had a crew of 13 men to sail the ship, including a carpenter. One spring, however, Captain Ryder experienced a serious problem. 7 of his men deserted him upon reaching South America. Now he had to find a new carpenter as well as 6 new deckhands. As he began to ask around for help, an official-looking person approached him. "Say, Captain," the gentleman asked, "I'm looking for a ship to take me to Tahiti. Would you have room for me when you set sail?" "Certainly, sir," Captain Ryder replied. "We'd be honored to have you sail with us. If I'm successful in finding new crew members, I hope to sail next Wednesday. Could you be ready by then?" The gentleman was Governor Wilson. He had been looking for a way to take a large sum of money to the governor of Tahiti. Now he had been promised a place on the 7 Seas, Captain Ryder's ship. Returning to his room, he placed the money in a small chest and hid it in one of his own trunks. "I won't even tell the captain about the money," he thought. "That way no one will know my secret, and I should have a safe journey." But Tilly, a girl employed in Governor Wilson's office, knew about the money. Tilly had a bad habit of spending her evenings in evil company. One evening she mentioned to her friends that Governor Wilson had an important secret job to do. She told how much money he was carrying and that he was going to sail on the 7 Seas next Wednesday. Tilly didn't know that Harry Jensen was listening to her story. Harry worked as a ship's carpenter but had been without work for many months. He looked very respectable but was involved in all kinds of crime. Hearing Tilly's story, he went to find the captain of the 7 Seas. A plan was formed in his evil mind. He was going to be rich at last. Captain Ryder liked Harry immediately. He was especially pleased to hear that Harry could not only be his carpenter, but that he would bring 6 men with him to work as deckhands. Everything was quickly arranged, and on Wednesday the 7 Seas set sail as planned. We'll stop there for a moment. The Bible talks about those people who talk too much, who are compelled to tell what they know, whether they should be telling what they know or not. The book of Proverbs speaks of these in not very complimentary terms. We should learn a lesson here from Tattletale Tilly. All right, everything was arranged. The 7 Seas would set sail as planned, but Captain Ryder quickly discovered that the 6 new crew members were very rough men. They didn't obey orders and did not do their work very carefully. Harry was the only one who seemed to work willingly and remain respectful. After sailing for several days, a bad storm began to batter the ship. To make matters worse, the ship began to leak. "Harry," instructed Captain Ryder, "you must search the ship to find the leak and repair it as quickly as possible." After being gone for some time, Harry returned. "I'm sorry, Captain. I've searched everywhere, but I cannot find the leak." "Then man the pumps," the captain ordered. "We're taking on too much water." Captain Ryder, who was a godly man, prayed silently to the Lord for his help and guidance. The crew kept the pumps going day and night, but the leak only seemed to get worse. On the third day, Captain Ryder noticed something tossing on the waves not far from the ship. Looking through his binoculars, he saw that it was a native from one of the nearby islands. He was struggling through the waves in a canoe. Even though he knew it would be dangerous to go back, the captain gave his orders. "Turn the ship. We must go back to rescue that man before he drowns." But the new crew members cursed and refused to obey. "We're not going to take chances just to rescue him. He's only an ignorant native anyway. Let him drown for all we care." Captain Ryder watched as the leaking ship drifted farther and farther away from the canoe. With a prayer in his heart, he went quietly to the back of the ship and dropped an anchor over the side. The dragging anchor slowed the drifting ship. Soon the canoe was near enough for the captain to throw a rope to the struggling native. The man carefully caught the rope and soon climbed on board the ship. He was a very strong young native man. After resting for a short time, he gladly helped with trying to pump water from the ship, but he didn't speak to the other men. When asked for his name, he only said, "Matt." It seemed that he could not understand or speak English. The storm continued, and the ship took on more and more water. The captain sadly realized that they would have to leave the sinking ship. As soon as the storm let up, everyone would have to use the long boats to survive. Captain Ryder began to give orders to stock the long boats with food. Soon, Governor Wilson came forward and asked to speak with him in private. Sitting down in the empty dining room, Governor Wilson spoke quietly. "Captain, I want you to know that I have a very valuable box on board with me. Somehow I must get it safely to the governor of Tahiti." As they were speaking, the captain noticed Matt, the native, creeping into the room on his hands and knees. Just as the captain was going to scold him, Matt whispered, "Shh! Wait! Must talk." He quickly crept beneath the table, where he would not be seen. Then, coming between them, he urgently spoke in broken English. "Much danger. Men will cut throats. Then money box lost. Ship too." Governor Wilson was shocked, but he understood what Matt was trying to say. Quickly he went to his cabin and loaded his revolver. Matt told the rest of his story to Captain Ryder. "Matt, see many things, hear much." He explained how he had seen a row of holes in the side of the ship when he was still in his canoe. He also saw the pumps working and guessed that something was wrong. He came on board the ship but pretended that he could not speak English. As he worked with the carpenter and his friends, he heard them discuss their plans. As soon as the longboats were out, Harry and his men planned to kill the captain and the governor. Then they would return to the ship, repair the holes, and make off with money. They would also sell the ships at the next port, and everyone would be rich. Captain Ryder quickly armed himself and called his faithful men. The carpenter and his men did not know that their plot had been discovered. Harry and Jake were the ringleaders. They were both asleep in Jake's cabin at the time. Captain Ryder and his men entered their cabin quietly and quickly overpowered the surprised robbers. The other 5 were easily taken, and soon all 7 were securely bound and locked up in the hold of the ship. Matt quickly led Captain Ryder and his men to Harry's cabin. There were the holes that Harry himself had made. The holes were soon repaired, and the ship was pumped dry at last. 4 days later, the 7 seas safely reached Tahiti. The criminals were turned over to the proper authorities. Then Captain Ryder and the governor bought a new whaleboat from Matt as a reward for his service to them. They watched as he set sail back to his own island. Much time had passed since Captain Ryder and his crew had set sail. The Seven Seas was several weeks late for arriving back home. One ship reported having seen the Seven Seas from a distance. It looked as though it was about to sink, was the report. After several more weeks passed, Captain Ryder and his crew were thought to be drowned. The sad news had reached Betty Ryder, the good captain's wife, and their children. During all the anxious days of waiting, she never gave up hope. Each day she earnestly prayed for her husband's safety. At last, however, she began to fear that her dear husband had drowned. Then she knelt down with her children and prayed, "O Lord, your will be done. Whether he is alive or dead, he is safe in your hands." Poor Betty was worn out from the weeks of anxiety. She wanted to read to her children from the Bible, but she was too overcome. She pointed to the passage she had chosen and asked her daughter Lucy to read. Captain Ryder himself was walking up to their door as Lucy's clear voice came through an open window. "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." Tears filled the captain's eyes. He saw God's wonderful providence in giving him the desire to save the life of the young native, who in turn was used by God to save his own life and his ship. In a moment, he entered the happy circle of his dear family. With unspeakable joy, he told his happy family the story of how wonderfully God had cared for him in his marvelous providence. Very good. God takes care of his people. As it says in 2 Chronicles, he honors those who honor him. Aren't you glad that you love and trust a God like that? Well, there we are, reading for April the 7th. God bless.